previous video, we used our UV seams and the unwrap command here to create our UVs for the base mesh. What I'll do here is I will take this UV preview window and I'll just make it a little bit larger so we can see what's going on, and I'll just zoom in and position. Next thing, I'll go up to here where it says opacity and I'll increase the opacity to 100%. This allows us to see the islands a little more clearly. You'll notice as well that now I've unwrapped those UV islands, that we have this checker pattern, simple checker, being shown on our mesh. And you'll also notice that the little checker squares on here are actually quite even in their distribution. This goes back to what I said in the previous video, where we're aiming for our UV islands here to be as neutral colors as we possibly can. Extreme blues and reds on our UV shells mean that we will have stretching, and as a result, these checker patterns, for example, would be larger in some areas than in others, which would mean we have an uneven textile density on our mesh. However, on this particular model, you can see that we have quite an even distribution, even if we look at these smaller areas like the hands. So with our UVs now created, we have this initial layout that 3DCoat has done to try to position those islands as best it can on this UV workspace. I'm going to use this little button here to change to select islands, and now I can click on each of these islands individually and start to position them on the UV space that we have. So for example, I can move this and rotate it around and change its position like so. I can take the other leg and do the same thing. It's better when you are actually laying out your UV islands, the pieces which relate to each other are in similar positions on the UV island. And what I mean by that is we can see here that we have these leg shells and we have down here the bottom of the feet. Typically, you may want to put these shells closer to the leg shells. And if we zoom in a little bit closer, here for example, we've got the toe claws down here. So we might want to move these islands over to where the toes are. So it's really important that when you're moving these around, that you don't mistakenly select one, for example, and accidentally increase the size of this one. Now the reason for this is quite simple. You'll notice now that the shading on our UVs has changed. And this is because the relationship between the head shell and the body shells and legs, etc., have now changed proportionally. Let's just undo that scale that we did. And now we're back to those neutral colors again. So it's worth just keeping in mind that if you want an even distribution of textile density on your model, to keep the colors consistently neutral. It doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. You can, for example, increase the density of the head shell independently of the body, and it's perfectly up to you. But this would result in a mismatch of resolution between the neck in this case and the body. So sometimes this will be needed. For example, if you want to have a close-up shot of the eye, maybe you would need much more resolution in the eye. And in this case, it would be good to increase the size of that shell. But for this video, I'm going to make sure that everything is fairly even. And all I'm going to do here is just move these shells around and make sure that I don't scale any of them too much. So I'll go away now and I will create a new layout and move these pieces around individually to create a new UV layout. Here you can see I've changed the arrangement of the UV shells within the UV space. I've slightly increased these areas uniformly. So what I've done is I've actually selected each of these large shells here and increased their size, as these are more important areas, and you can see with the yellow selection that these are the main areas of the model, and therefore these are the most important and need more resolution than the other areas, for example inside the mouth, claws, the hands. So by uniformly increasing each of these shells together, something like this, I'm able to maintain that neutral colour for the majority of the important shells of my UV. As I move these around, you can see I've tried to fit them as evenly as I can inside the UV space and maximize this UV space. 3DCoat tried to do this and did a good job at placing them in there. However, I've just tweaked it in order to place these and keep the pieces relatively close together. So for example, over here, these pieces here are all the mouth pieces, the internal pieces of the mouth. Here we have the feet and the claws to the feet. And down here we have the hands and the claws to the hands. Now I can increase the sizes of these, but as I said earlier, I'm trying to keep things as even and as neutral as possible to make sure that my textile density on the mesh is as even as I can get it, while still trying to increase the resolution for the main areas of the mesh. So with the positions of those UV shells now defined, I still actually haven't created my UV map. To do that, I need to go down to where it says Apply UV Set, and this will create the final UVs for my dinosaur. So I'll click Supply. It'll give me this little warning, operation cannot be undone. I'll say OK, and then it will go away and it will apply that UV layout for this particular mesh. If you want to rename this particular UV layout here, you'll come up to here and you'll say Rename Current UV Set. I've renamed mine to Dino 4K. So now let's bake our sculpt mesh onto this UV layout. What I'll do first is just take this UV window here and I'm just going to dock it down here below my polygroups. So just to recap, we've created our sculpt mesh, we've gone into the modeling room and we've created our UVs on the base mesh that we created at the beginning of this series, and we've arranged our UV layout as we can see here in the UV preview, which I've called Dino 4K. So within the modeling workspace, I'm going to go to Bake, and I'm going to come down here to where it says Bake with Normal Map per Pixel. I'm going to select that, and you'll notice I get this dialog box appear, which is giving me the scan depth for the cage that we've UV'd. We have an inner and an outer scan depth. So what I'll do first of all is I will select, as it's selected here, the outer shell. So it's showing me the outer shell. If I select the inner shell, we can see a preview of the inner shell only. And this object that we can see here is the sculpt mesh that we are going to be baking. Let's jump back to the outer shell first. And now using this slider here, I'm just going to reduce the size of our outer shell until we see the sculpt mesh. We can see it coming through here. I'm going to increase the outer shell until all of that sculpt mesh disappears. Here I'm going to just check over the mesh. Let's move this over to the side. And I'm just trying to look here to see where, if any, of the sculpt mesh pokes through, and it seems to have done a good job. Let's swap over to the inner shell, and here we can see we've got some poke through here of the inner shell, and we want to now make this shell disappear inside of our sculpt ideally. So let's use this inside object here, and now we're going to move this one in. Now you may have noticed as well on here that I have a save and a load. Now I've gone ahead and done this before, and I'm just going to load in one that I've created previously. And these are the settings that I saved. The inside object 2.79 and the outside 3.92, and this gives me a fairly good result where on the outside I don't have any poke through, and on the inside as well. I've got very little poke through on here. Now there'll always be cases where we have a little bit. Let's go back to our outside shell. Can you see here? We have this little bit of poke through on here. And if that's the case, I can go over to this option here and just start to remove those areas. And this raises the cage locally to remove any of those little poke throughs that we can see. So these tools are like brush tools that I can use locally just to correct smaller areas, whereas these sliders are to do with more of a global moving of those cages. And that seems to be okay for now. So what I'm going to do now is say OK. And now 3DCoat has given me this option for me to create a texture width and height for the baking process. I'm going to leave all this to default, but I am going to change the resolution to 4K, as we can see here. Once it's done that, I'm going to say OK. And now the baking process will start, where 3DCoat will bake that high resolution sculpt mesh onto our low resolution cage inside of the modeling room. You'll notice that I've never left the modeling room for this whole process. Even though we do have a retopo and UV room, I can use the modeling room to do all of this process in one go. And now that it's finished, it's time to head over to the paint room to see our result. To do that, I'm going to go and click on this option here, painting, and you'll see in the sculpt tree here that my sculpt is still visible. I need to turn that off to see the result of the bake. So I will just turn the sculpt off, and this is the result of the bake, which is pretty good. I've captured all of those details onto my lower res cage, and just to show, if I hit W, we can see the wireframe of our model with all those details on there. Let's just move over to the layers tab here, and you can see that we have a normal map now, which has given us all of this detail from the sculpt. In the next video, we're going to repeat this process, and we're going to look at how we can vertex paint our sculpt first and then bake some color information onto our model. See you next time.